LinkedIn Live from MZ Burning Glass. Today, the BLS released the J.O.L.T.S report, and we have Ron Hetrick and Rucha Vankudre here to join us, our two senior economists, and we're going to chat about the release. Hope we can hop right in and ask some questions. So, Ron and Rucha, what are your general takeaways from this morning's report?
Rucha?
Sure. So I think a couple of interesting things to see here. The first is that I think some people were potentially anticipating a slowdown in the number of openings, and that is not what we're seeing. There's a slight increase from last month. And so, those openings really are staying up there very high. And that we're also looking at the number of quits as something to keep our eye on. And although it fell slightly from the last month, it is also still really high. So I think, we're seeing a lot of the same that we were seeing in November. Ron?
Yeah, I think a lot of consistency in this report. Job openings obviously back up. Everybody's kind of looking at these quits. Everywhere I go, everybody wants to talk about the Great Resignation. I think when you look at these kind of the quits and where there are, we're still seeing a lot of this Great Resignation is actually occurring in these lower skilled jobs. You're still seeing, fairly high quit rates in manufacturing and retail trade. I think this actually went up. Eating and drinking places, lots of job openings. Obviously, one of the biggest drivers of our overall job openings number was coming from, restaurants and the like that. So, we're still seeing this huge demand for labor at the lower end. We're still seeing people quit, I think, bouncing around on those jobs in particular. And I think it remains the chief focus as we keep watching, our labor force participation rate just not recovering month after month.
Did this morning's report meet your expectations? Did it come in above or below, or was it about in line with what you've expected based on what you've seen in previous reports?
For me, it felt the same. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. It was, I think, consistent with what we've seen before. It makes sense sort of with everything we're hearing from employers.
Also remember December's job report was pretty lame. I mean, 199,000 jobs. We've been coming in month after month with the payroll survey, just very disappointing numbers. So when you're not seeing, employers particularly saying that they're finding people, how can we possibly expect quits to go down?
Right. So were we seeing job openings improve at all? Where would you say we're seeing the most improvement or the most decline? What sectors do you think should be worried? What sectors should be encouraged?
Everyone should be worried.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone should be worried. Sort of, another thing that we saw come out in the December report was that unemployment had dropped. Right, it's been fairly consistently dropping throughout the year, and so now with this new 10.9 openings number and the 6.3 million unemployed, the new number that we're looking at is that there's about 58 people for every 100 job openings, which is not nearly enough people, right, to take care of all those jobs. So I think everyone is probably feeling the stretch right now. And another thing showing that is layoffs are at an all-time low. So, no one is getting rid of the employees they have. Everyone's holding on to who they have and trying to get more people in the door.
Except healthcare, which actually did see their layoffs go up and their quits go down, but we'll leave that story for another time. I think the bigger story here is, especially in December, and obviously every employer I talk to, and I've talked to tons and tons of companies, even in January, who are just in incredible amounts of pain. And you have to think about the fact that there are still just so few people out there looking for work for the amount of openings that we have. And so everybody out there going, well, when am I going to see the end of these pay rate increases? Like, is there any hope and any sign? There absolutely is no hope or sign in that at where we stand right now. And, we're still watching these numbers. We've got to get these jobs filled to take the pressure off of pay rate inflation. And we're just not getting that. The number, once again, I don't think this number was too surprising, to see it kind of bounce back up again. I think the number, had it gone above where it had been previously, I think we would have been really disappointed. But I think that is a very good indication that, employers, we certainly knew through December, we're not close to being out of the woods. And I think from what I'm getting, the vibes I'm getting in January, talking to companies, we fully expect that that's, January's number is probably not going to be that much better.
So with this new report sort of meeting your expectations and expecting January to be very similar, does this suggest that the labor market is stabilizing, but at kind of this new normal?
Oh, that's a good question. So basically, we're stable, but you still have to look at this number. These people that are out of the labor force. Yes, a vast majority are people over the age of 55. But let's not kid ourselves. Like, there's still a pretty sizable number of people, prime age people, 25 to 54. We're still missing about, I think it's 1.8 million that excess out of the labor force than where we were back in February of 2020. I'm hearing various stories, people saying, well, maybe, couples got used to a one income household during COVID. I can believe it to a certain extent. I still believe that there are a number of people waiting to return. It's not helping. If you go back to December, Omicron was kind of becoming this rage. It was still kind of unknown at that time. Obviously, it's going to be a huge factor in the January survey week because it was raging around the time of the survey week. So we just can't seem to get past that. And so I don't want to call something a new normal when I don't think the new norm was always going to be raging, infections every single time. I think as these things start to abate, especially if the severity abates, I think we'll settle into whatever our new normal is going to be. But I think right now, we just don't know what that is.
Rucha, do you have any thoughts to add?
Yeah, I think that's right. It's, normal in the sense that this is the tightness that we've been seeing for a long time now, right? And it's not really going anywhere. I think Ron is right that there are, the labor force participation rate is down. But I do think it remains to be seen what it would take to actually get those people back in, right? I think you're right that in January was tough for infections and that's not helping things. But, I do think there's other things like childcare is still very tenuous, right? All of those issues still stand. And I don't see those going anywhere. So I'm not sure that, this could be the new, I don't want to say normal, but the new state of affairs, at least for a little while.
Just to add on to that, because I notice a lot of people's concern right now, you're looking at childcare, and something that I've been speaking about a lot and I'm currently writing about is the fact that, they're looking for the same workers that a lot of companies are looking for. It's that same, you don't need a college degree. There's just not a whole lot of those people out. So when we look at these incredibly high job openings numbers in manufacturing, retail, trade, and now, in December, eating and drinking going up to 1.5 million job openings again, understand that they're competing for that same worker in that same price range. And for some of these companies, they can go ahead and keep jacking their wage costs up to try to attract people. But for childcare, it's complex. Like to pay people more, you're going to have to charge more to the people who are bringing children there. And that's something that has to work its way through. And you can just see how all of these, it's almost like it just gets stuck in this loop. Like we have to fill those job openings, but the reason we're not filling those openings is the same reason everybody else can't fill them. And they're all getting more desperate, which means childcare companies are going to get more desperate, which means costs are going to keep going up. So it's almost hard to see how you get out of this.
So, Rucha, do you see these wage increases that Ron's talking about continuing for quite a while? Do you see them continuing in one particular set of industries?
When we had looked at sort of the indicators towards the end of last year, we were really seeing employment costs rising a lot in some of those industries that Ron was mentioning, right? Accommodations and hospitality, food service. And so I think that, we are expecting those to continue increasing. I don't know how much longer they will, right? Inflation at some point, it's all going to catch up to us. But I don't think we've seen indication yet that things are slowing down much.
Yeah, just real quick, if there's probably a lot of people out there still speculating about inflation. If you don't understand basic economics, certainly from a wage push side, you still have all of these parts, even in the supply chain, all of these parts, these places where you're buying your goods from are getting more and more desperate. They keep increasing wages and they have to pass those wage costs on. So to see an overall inflation number come into check, never going to be solved until we get this kind of supply demand equation more settled. It would take a miracle to make that, happen because, all of your input costs are going up. So obviously those input costs have to be recovered. And I think we're certainly seeing that showing up all over the place.
Well, Ron and Rucha, thank you both for your excellent real-time analysis. Do either of you have any final thoughts before we wrap up this morning? Ron, you want to start? Or Rucha?
Go ahead.
Rucha, go ahead.
So I was just going to say, I think this report was interesting in that, it sort of kept up with the trends we've been seeing, and kind of stay tuned for our next employment one coming out. And I think that'll really give us some more of the other side of the story.
Mhm.
Yeah, stay tuned to Friday, and don't expect miracles on Friday either.
Okay. Well, we can hope for a Friday miracle. But in the meantime, thank you, Ron and Rucha, for this breakdown of the JOLTS report this morning. I'm Hannah Grieser for MC Burning Glass, and thank you all for joining us for this session of LinkedIn Live.